Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Unstuck movement. I'm your host, Rob Z. Today we have the incredible Rosemary Carminati on the podcast. Did I say your last name right?
You certainly did. It was fantastic.
Oh man, I nailed it. That is incredible. I love that. So I love to kick off these episodes with powerful questions. The first powerful question was, did I say your name right? But the second powerful question, and this is really interesting, Rosemary. So you spent a corporate career of 30 years in sales. You've referred to yourself as a living corpse in those days. If you could sum up your journey in one word to where you are today, what would that word be and why?
The word would be reinvention. And I can say reinvention personally and professionally. And it didn't come out of a choice, it came out of survival and a necessity.
Mm.
I had gotten to a point professionally in my career after 30 years of sales goals, quotas. Never ever succeeding at a level where next day is, what have you done for me lately? I mean, any of you, your listeners out there can relate to the go mentality, the amount of stress and anxiety that's involved. Very successful monetarily, but what it can do to you and your being physically, mentally, emotionally. And also personally, the reinvention came about because of a series of challenges that happened over a decade in my family's life. And I had gotten to the point where I have referred to it, as you said, a human corpse, because I almost felt as if I had been a boxer in a ring and I had gotten to the 15th round and there was nothing left in me. No fight, nothing. So when I say living corpse, it truly felt like I had no value or worth. And I
Mm.
just basically took in breath, oxygen in and out, and had nothing else to serve or to have a purpose in life. And I've often said that had I been a little bit more courageous, I probably would have committed suicide.
Wow. If you had been more courageous, you would have
Yeah.
committed suicide. Holy smokes. Okay. Wow. Okay. What a way to kick things off. So I just want to introduce everybody to the platform, right? So this is the Unstuck movement. You're here today because you had that breakthrough. These are true testimonies of breakthrough. So these stories, I tell them, and I have you and amazing people come on here to tell these stories so people have examples that it's possible for them in their lives because you've done it for yourself. Stories of breakthrough, breaking the chains that have been holding you back. I have to thank the Connected Leaders Academy, Jose Escobar, for making this platform possible. Shout out connectedleadersacademy.com. And Rosemary is a personal development trainer, transformational speaker, and retirement specialist dedicated to helping others transition through career changes or retirement with reignited purpose. This idea of a living corpse that you were kind of walking through life in this state, how many years did you walk through life in this state?
I want to say it didn't happen overnight. So it's one of those transitions that started slowly. And I
Mm-hmm.
believe the reason that it happened to me was the buildup of the career and the not paying attention to myself, my health. And then when the crisis started to happen, I had no foundation to hold on to. So in a weakened state already, it was over a decade of things that, if I could say, I lost faith in people around me that I thought were going to be supportive and that I could trust. I lost faith in the system, in the people that are supposed to protect citizens of our country. I lost faith in the government. I lost faith in my higher power. I had been raised Catholic and I believed in so many wonderful things. The idea that what you put out, what you do for others, you will be taken care of. And that wasn't happening. And then the biggest one of all was I lost faith in myself.
Mm-hmm.
I really did not believe I had any value at all. and I didn't believe I could handle one more thing.
Where are you at today?
Oh, today? I am so beyond joyous and at peace that there are people that can't stand to be around me. I'm I Because of the struggles I went through, I refer to each one, those challenges helped me grow, which most people can say when they've gone through it, 10 years later, you look back and say, "Oh my gosh, that's what brought me to where I am today." But
Hmm.
also, when I got to the point that I was at the lowest of low, and as I said, I would have done something to end my life, but I didn't have the courage to do it. So I was slowly watching myself die. I was not taking care of myself, drinking too much, isolating, doing all the things we know is not good for a person psychologically or physically. And what I ended up doing was one thing I never thought I would do. I reached out my hand and asked for help. And that was the first step. And then as I got help from clergy, from support systems, from medical professionals, and friends that I hadn't opened up to, as I got stronger, I learned the skills necessary. And I began to do a deep dive into my psychology, what I wanted out of life. And, you know, each challenge since then has just been I say it has added to the tools in my tool belt. So when I say today I'm at ease and I'm at peace of mind, I've had things happen in the last year or two that if they happened during that crisis, they would have definitely sent me over the edge. But now, because of where I have found myself again and a better, stronger version of myself, those things come along and they don't phase me because I have
Hmm.
faith in those things that I lost faith in. But most of all, I have faith in myself again that no matter what comes along, I have the capability to handle it.
It's so difficult to, and it's well, it's not hard to believe. It's pretty easy to believe. People live right on that edge all the time, right? Where one thing goes wrong and the whole house of cards is going to come down because you're not maybe you're not financially prepared, you're not emotionally prepared, you're not mentally prepared, you're not physically prepared for one more thing to go wrong, right? So when and catastrophe is going to hit, it's going to happen at some point in your life. Calamity is going to happen to all of us. So how prepared we are in that moment is everything. And keeping ourselves prepared, it's easy to say, but it can be very difficult to build that momentum when we don't have any momentum. What was who was the first person? Do you remember the first person you reached out to? The first step you made in the positive direction? The first action you took? What was that?
Well, I actually reached out to a medical professional because I finally decided I'm worth more. I finally said to myself, this is not the life that you were meant to lead.
Mm-hmm.
And I reached out and got some counseling and then found a new church that I wanted to belong to that I'm still a member of that I absolutely love. I love the philosophy, the pastor, the congregation. Everything about it fills me up. When I leave mass on Sundays, I feel like I'm walking about 3 feet off the ground.
I love that.
Yeah. And so, it's funny you say so many people are walking around with this, the straw that can break the camel's back. Well, I also believe there's a lot of people that are sleepwalking through their life that don't actually really, really know who they are
Hmm.
or what they want to do because they're going by what they've been told, or they're so in fear of what other people will think if they actually show who they are. I think
Yeah.
inauthenticity, not being authentic, easier, um, is a crisis for a lot of people. And I mean, you want to talk about loneliness and sadness when the words that you're saying and the actions that you're doing aren't in congruency with who you really feel that you are.
Hmm.
So I think that's when the straw comes along and breaks that camel's back is because they haven't got that foundation. They don't really know what they want out of life. A lot of people. I mean, I run into many of them now are my clients, the people that are waiting for that moment when they can declare, I'm happy.
Mm.
When certain circumstances fit into place, then I'll be happy. And
Yeah. And that's so true because we are, and man, I've done this and do this in certain areas of my life. It's like, well, when this happens, then I'm going to do this. When these things line up, then I'll do this. I'll make this decision. And I think that there's so much power. Just today, I don't have life insurance, and my wife was like, "You need to get life insurance," and I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm waiting for." And I started like going through my list of excuses. She's like, no, just get the life insurance. I'm like, fine. So I set up the appointment for Monday to get it set up. But that's one of those things where I've been telling myself for a long time, oh, when it gets to a certain place, then I'll do it. But there's no reason to do that. And the more, well, you need to have the right people in your life to push you. And hopefully those are really very good people who are close to you to push you to do the right things. How did you change your circle? I'm curious because that's a part of the journey, right? Of reinventing yourself, finding your identity, is changing the circle. Did you drastically change the people that you spent time with? Did people leave your life? Did people come into it? How did that play out?
this is an area I love to talk about because I really feel, the old Jim Rohn saying, we are the average of the five people we spend the most time with.
Hmm.
And how can you flourish and grow if you're not around people that want to see you flourish and grow? And how many people are spending time with I want to call them dream stealers, the soul suckers, the people that keep you in that place?
Hmm.
Because the old saying, misery loves company, I like to say, miserable people love miserable company.
Mm.
So when you start changing, they slowly start dissipating and disappearing from your life. But also, in turn, there are times when you have to take a hard look and say, I love this person. Either we have to change our expectations of each other, or maybe this is a person that I need a little distance from because they don't bring out the best in me. And I can't be around someone that's watching this social media and the news 24 hours a day and complaining about life and woe is me and staying in that victim mode because it's very difficult to get out of crisis if everybody around you is allowing you you need the people that throw the life preserver and help lift you out. And I have found in the last 7-8 years of this journey I've been on, they've come to me. I know you believe this too. What we put out, the energy that we put out, I don't even have to look, and I'm attracting the people that are um, conscious of how to make the world a better place, that are accepting with grace differences in other people, and that's also been a big part of me reinventing myself, is taking a look at, I like to say, the peer group that I had and deciding, who do I need to weed out in a gentle, kind way. They're still a part of my life, but not in that same, you know, um, degree of involvement. And
Hmm.
then also, who do I need to seek out? I have in my life now, I can't even measure the amount of people that are mentors, inspirational. They're living the life that I aspire to, and I don't mean, oh, they have the car or and none of that. I mean, they truly have happiness. They're about growing and contributing to the world. And that's, and again, the other thing that's so fulfilling. And when people talk to me about this, they'll say, yeah, I know. I like to get this one or that one back into my life or out of my life. But what about family members? And I like to say about family members, you can't choose them. So the best thing we can do with some of those, the ones that, maybe if you have a great idea or you're inspired by something and they can't wait to tell you what's wrong with it, know ahead of time those expectations of them. Accept them for where they are consciously. This is where they are in their development. And when I get on the phone with that person, I don't expect they're going to be my cheerleader. I get that from the other person. I get
Hmm.
all kinds of love that fills my bucket from a lot of different people in my world. And I don't expect it from the ones that historically usually aren't there. And occasionally they surprise you and you
That's
just
exactly
don't
what I was
forget.
gonna say. If you, yeah, if and as you begin to grow, and I've seen this for myself in my own life, as I grow, those relationships change where those people, I show up differently, and then they show up differently.
Hmm.
I also limit the information they're privy to, and also the amount of time they have access to me. you
Yeah,
know,
limiting your exposure. That's
so
exactly what I
yeah,
say. If you know that they're going to suck some of your energy or they're going to bring you down in some way, you're still going to see them, but you don't have to spend as much time with them. And my mentor, one of my mentors, says something that I love. What you end up finding out in your life is you become the example and the invitation so that the people that start seeking you out and becoming part of your life, they're learning from some of the things that you've gone through and then being an open invitation to say, you know what, I've changed and these are the wonderful things I'm experiencing. If you're interested, I'd love to help you. Yeah.
well, it's fascinating too with a lot of those kinds of people, and I'm generalizing here, but it's been this case for me. They normally are really, they love to talk about themselves. So you really can just spend time asking them questions about their life and completely leave out all the stuff about your life. And normally that general set of people don't really ask that many questions about you if you're asking about them, because they want to talk about themselves, and
Hmm.
they're going to complain a lot, and then you can be there for them as in those spaces. You can be that person for them in that space, that actually somebody who shows up and listens to them, because oftentimes those are the people that need somebody to listen to them, and you can be that for them, and it's a win-win. And you build a better relationship with them because you're no longer trying to get them to validate you. You're just listening to them, and you don't even have to open up that much about your stuff, because unfortunately it seems like they might not even want to hear about it anyways. And that's why the negative stuff comes up.
Well,
So I found that to be
they're
very
so
helpful.
wrapped up in it that they can't even see the forest. What's that?
Yeah, the forest for the trees, whatever that statement
Yeah.
technically means, I don't fully know, but yeah.
Yes, but they can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. They can't see anything beyond their own specific, you know,
Yeah,
experiences or
and
needs.
that's why they sprinkle all of that onto your stuff, because they're just taking all that stuff from their stuff and putting it onto you and
Right.
what's going on with you. So, okay, this is good. I love this conversation. We have to shout out to the sponsor real quick, the Connected Leaders Academy. 60 seconds to find out what the Connected Leaders Academy is all about. When we come back, Rosemary, I want to talk about. I love quotes and sayings, and one of your favorite quotes: "Today is my favorite day, and I'm going to squeeze every drop of life out of it." How do we do that? We're going to find out in 60 seconds.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're a growing tribe, a community of entrepreneurs all over the world, globally, all across the country, high performers, titans of industry. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to grow personally and professionally, scale your influence, develop your skill sets, move the needle in your business, more clients, more money, more profit, the bottom line, and of course, grow your circle and your network like never before, this is where you want to be. Join the Connected Leaders Academy today. We are scaling massively. We want to welcome you in. Check me out on Instagram and on Facebook, the @ JAESCO25. We look forward to having you join us. Take care.
So, Rosemary, how do we squeeze every drop of life out of every day? How do we make today our favorite day? What does that look like for you?
Well, for me, I think some of that, I've always felt this way from the time I was young. Even though I say I reinvented myself, I also rediscovered myself because I have been one of those optimistic person that was very grateful from the time I was a small child. I had an older sister who was diagnosed with cancer when I was 8, and she was told that my mother was told that she had 30 days to live. Well,
Mm.
she lived to 64 and just passed away last year.
Oh, wow.
She w-
Amazing.
and she went through three cancers in her life.
Wow.
So to me, witnessing someone I loved more than the person that I could talk hours about our connection. Um, What she taught me was to appreciate the abundance we have, to stop and look at every day as the gift that it actually is. It's not cliche. When you see someone suffering like that all the time, and each time I would say goodbye to her, or every birthday wondering, is this going to be my last with her?
Mm.
Really puts into perspective the abundance and the gifts that I have in my life. So when I say squeeze the life out of every day, be present in the moment. I just came back from I love to walk every day, and I was walking in the park, and I was on a headset with my mom talking like I do 3 or 4 times a day. She's 85, God bless her. And I stopped because there was a breeze, and the lawnmowers were going. The smell of that fresh cut grass, just to stop and enjoy, be present, all the different things, the miracles that we have around us that we get so tied up in busy life and got to do this and got to do that. Those of us with grandchildren, to stop and look at their face, the miracle of them growing and learning. I I don't know. It's just, to me, it's something I've always had in me, but even more so after I've gone through some of the things I've been through, where you just don't take it for granted anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, don't take it for granted because wow, man, every opportunity, every day there every time you're out or communicating with anybody is an opportunity to connect with someone and to lighten their day, to lighten their load. And when you're stuck in your own self, it's really hard to do that because everybody's a problem. Everybody who's driving's a problem. People who are in your way at the grocery store are a problem, right? There's just like everybody's kind of a nuisance. But when you have the other perspective of like, man, I have the opportunity, everybody here, you can learn something from everybody and you can find good in everything. My mentor always says there's a blessing in everything if you look for it. And there's a blessing in every opportunity, every situation. There's constantly opportunities for you to grow. There's constantly opportunities for you to learn. And there's constantly opportunities for you to put a smile on somebody's face. And just it's the most simple things. It's the most simple things in life that are the most important. And I say this every podcast episode, but I'm just going to say it now. I had this dream, and the basic idea of the dream was stop worrying about where you're going all the time and just start loving people. This is a
Yeah.
message from God in this dream. And that's for me is like I'm so caught up in where I'm going. Slow down, love people where they're at. Just show up, be present, show up. Podcasting is a big thing for me in that it helps to do that because you're focusing on a conversation, really listening to somebody and trying to bring something meaningful out of it. What if we approached every conversation like a podcast
Mhm.
conversation where we're trying to draw something out of somebody that can, impact them, impact us, and really bring meaningful change? So, you help people going through the transitions of retirement, which is, I know for most people, the biggest transition of their life. Retirement for my dad, for example, big transition for him. He's busier now than he ever was since he retired. Some people are the opposite, where retirement ends up killing them because they lose their sense of purpose.
Mhm.
And whenever I hear that, I think of living your life. A lot of people live their life. They are what they are, what they're doing. They are not who they are being. So they're so attached to their doing that they don't even know who they are. And once they have to kind of figure that out, that's difficult for them. What aspects of retirement do you find people often overlook or they're
Oh,
not planning for and they're not prepared for as it happens?
well, the big challenge for most people in retirement is the bill of goods they've been sold. Okay? The idea of Shangri-La. How many people do you hear? I can't wait till I retire. I'm going to do that when I retire. I'm going to travel when I retire.
Yeah.
All of those wonderful things that don't necessarily come to fruition. And you're right, research, and there's somewhere where I have it noted, research shows that living with purpose in retirement adds 7 or more years to your longevity. So that would then mean if you don't have the purpose, the aging process rapidly accelerates. And at my age, I'm seeing it all around me, friends, family. They lose their, not only sense of purpose, they lose their identity because
Mm.
their job was who they were. They lose their social set their social environment, their friends, their significance. How many people we know especially senior level executives that have gotten used to being an authority. People listen to me. And now all of a sudden, nobody really cares about my opinion. And what's happening is there's a lot of information out there about retirement. Where are you going to live? How much do you need for your money? 401k, tax free retirement, Medicare, on and on and on. And maybe travel or downsizing in your living quarters. But they're not talking about the potential negative side effects, the psychological ones that happen to your actual psyche, how you're going to feel 9 months in when, as I said, no one cares. You're standing in the grocery store and you're the same as the person behind you. And those people that you spent every day with who said, "Yeah, we'll keep in touch," they're busy. They're still at work. They're still doing those things. And you didn't realize that that was going to be a big hole that you were going to have to fill. So, what I talk about with my clients is let's think about those things. I love when I can talk to them before they retire, where I can say, let's look at your life. What do you love about what you do for a living? Now imagine you're retired. Where are there going to be gaps? Where are you going to fill in those holes?
Mhm.
And it's wonderful when it's very simple and cut and dried. But a lot of times there are things like I'll ask a question like, what are your dreams? What do you really envision that you've always wanted to do? And it's the sadness when I feel so often that people will say, I don't know. I don't know what my dreams are. I don't know if I have dreams. I don't know what would fulfill me.
Oh, it's terrifying. That makes me feel scared to know that somebody reaches their 50s or 60s and they've never even thought about it, sat down, spent the time to think about it, never has had anybody ask them the question so they could even start to think about it. It's terrifying. And it's really sad that we've designed a culture where those questions don't get asked and we don't spend time focusing on them, because what could be more important than knowing that about yourself? It's so important to know that about you.
Oh, well, if I have one of my many beliefs that I stand by is I truly don't believe you can feel fulfilled and at peace if you're not living authentically. And
Yeah.
how can you live authentically if you don't really understand what you want out of life?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the only way to be authentic. You have to know who you are, your goals, your values, your vision. If you don't know those things, then how can you be authentic? Because you're maybe a version of authentic, but a very shallow version of it, a limited version of authenticity, perhaps.
Or a version that someone else imposed on you.
Right, exactly. Yeah, or a version that your job gave you, like your authenticity came from your authority in your job or your position, right? So it was very conditional
Right,
what
right.
your authenticity was based on. And yeah, and the interesting is too, authenticity is that one personality trait that people pick up on without even realizing it. When you're talking to somebody who's authentic, it comes through, and you can't see it, but you can feel it.
Mhm.
You just know by the way you connect with somebody. And I think if you're inauthentic and you come around an authentic person, you're almost repelled by that person because it highlights something in you that you're like, oh shoot, there's something there that it's scaring me because I don't know what it is, and
Well,
I need to either two kinds of people. I need to either get away or come closer because there's something happening here and I can't identify what it is. I don't know if that
well,
makes sense or not.
oh, it does, because what it happens is you're holding up that mirror to them, and you're right. They're either going to run away because there's a lot of people that don't want to find out who they are. It's very scary to do that dive, that deep dig. What makes me who I am? What motivates me? How
Yeah,
do I feel about this or that? That's scary and it's hard work.
yeah,
It's much easier to just ignore it and keep going, like you said, do, do, do. And then, I'm getting my bills paid. I'm putting my kids through school. Do you know how many retirees I speak to that could stack their money up to the ceiling, and yet they spend most of their time complaining about what they can't do anymore, or their decaying bodily functions, or instead of thinking about all the things they still can do. switch that framework and put the emphasis on, I've got 30 years left. I like to say, I've got more mountains to climb. I've got more lives to change. I've got more fun to have. And I want to live my legacy now.
Yeah. This on a spiritual level, this is what the enemy does. Like switches our sight to what we don't have
Hmm.
instead of what we do have. And we have so much more abundance than we do lack, but we're trained to look at the lack instead of the abundance. But the truth is, for all of us, if we really can look at it objectively and be honest with ourselves, there's so much potential, there's so much abundance, but we have to be able to look at it and go after it and have the courage and the boldness to go after it.
And we're living in a time where we are inundated with images and the news that is there to scare and bring urgency, and social media. Oy, don't even get me started on what that does to a person's, feelings of self-worth and the
Yeah.
comparisons. And, you know, so we're living in a time where we're just being bombarded with all of those things. And so that feeling of lack, I mean, it's hard to avoid if you haven't, first of all, if you haven't had a background where you were raised in a family where you were celebrated and unconditional love was there at all times. Most people can't say that after a certain age, or they've had challenging upbringings. But you're not ready for what's happening. Pre-teenagers, teenagers that are, this social media that is just telling them you're not good enough
Hmm.
all the time. And it all
Yeah.
starts with self-love. And if they can't get that from either their family, or certainly they're trying to get it from social media, unfortunately.
Now, I know that you work a lot with people who are going through that retirement phase in their life, but there's also other transitional phases in life, like a new job, right? Picking a new career, starting your own business. I know for me was a gigantic transformational journey that brought up so many personal development issues that I knew I had to address. Divorce is another situation in your life where that can create that. So, uh, do you have certain fundamental tactics that work, whether you're going through a retirement phase or a new career phase or starting a business phase or a divorce phase? Is there certain things that are tried and true that can work across the board?
Yes. I believe the first thing fundamentally, and the foundation, is to figure out who you are. Now, it sounds pretty challenging, but there are very simple steps that you can take. 'Cause, I mean, these ideas have been around for decades. The idea that we have six basic psychological needs, and they're not water, air, those things that we think about, but they're the things that drive us. And for some, one is certainty. For me, that is not a huge need. I prefer some uncertainty in my life, but there's a lot of people that's huge. That's a part of who they are. They
Hmm.
need to be certain about things. Well, if they discover that in themselves through exercise and talking with people like me, they can figure out they have most of their stress is self imposed because of it.
Hmm.
They're going through life with expectations not meeting, I mean, reality. Speaking of reality, with reality not meeting their expectations. So if they can start looking at things like that, for me, the three top ones that are important to me and psychological needs are love, and just about everybody, even if they deny it, we all need love, but growth and contribution. I would shrivel up and psychologically die if I wasn't learning and growing and then contributing. It's been a part of my life. It's who I am. It's my essence is part of that.
Yeah.
So if when I work with clients, whatever stage transition they're going through, we look at that first. And then we start looking at limiting beliefs. Where did they come from? All those things that so many people out there, coaches and trainers and other practitioners are doing. But digging into those limiting beliefs, how many things that we don't even believe anymore, but we're still saying it to ourselves over and
Right.
over and over. That replay button is still happening. I hear it all the time. I hear people say stuff out loud about themselves, and I'll stop and say, would you say that to one of your children? Like, no, never. Well, then why are you driving and saying, "Oh, you're such an idiot, you missed that corner"?
Hmm.
You know, your brain is hearing those things
Hmm.
and your heart is taking them in, and it's saying you're not valued.
Yeah, it's so true. The things we say to ourselves. Yeah, it's a great way of looking. I've looked at it, and I've heard this from other people. Is would I want to be my own friend? If I
Mhm.
was me talking to me, would I be my own friend? When I would never talk to my friends the way I talk to myself, and catching yourself in that is so it's so important because you can be so unaware of it. It can be such an automatic, immediate response. You don't even notice it's happening, and you
And
usually need somebody to highlight that.
And in your case, and in a lot of people that I speak to that have already done some personal development or have a strong faith in a higher power, they're just saying it, off the cuff, possibly. But the people that really believe those things, those are the people that I just it bring again the sadness, the idea that it's unnecessary, that if they can discover that maybe it's because, long ago before they had the ability to actually make rational reasoning happen in their lives. What is it? Before we're of the age 7 years old, where our
Mhm.
prefrontal lobe isn't completely formed. So when your parents are saying something like, "Oh, you never do anything right. Oh, why did you do it like that?" Or God forbid if they tell you you're bad. Um, all those things that we know we shouldn't be saying to small children, they don't have the ability to say, "Well, Dad's having a rough day today, so he didn't really mean it." What they hear is, "You're no good. You're not worth anything. He really doesn't love you unless you behave in a certain way."
Right. Yeah.
So, addressing those things, I mean, I'm 62 years old, and when I started discovering and digging that big dig I did during that after the crisis, I started hearing messages I had received so long ago that I was still holding on to.
Hmm.
And saying, "Wait a minute. Do I really believe that deep down? And if I do, boy, I have to start examining about all the wonderful things I do have to contribute, the gifts I was given at birth that I've forgotten about, you know?
Yeah, I love that. Being able to go back, unearth those gifts because they're there and they may have been buried, but they don't go away. It's kind of like the sunshine behind the clouds. It's always there. You just gotta unearth it, dig it out. If they want to find you, they can go to yourtransformationtrainer.com. Rosemary, there's one question I want to ask to end this episode, and I love this question because it's just brings about unique answers. What is something that surprises you about yourself?
Oh, with all the work that I've done on myself and with all of the experiences I've had with clients, I still occasionally catch myself being my worst critic.
Mm.
And I can do it on some action I take, or what really surprises me is when I still sometimes have it about my physical appearance. And I say to myself, "Oh, I thought you were past that. What do you mean you don't want to do this or that because you might not look?" Huh? That's not who I am, and I know that. But and again, I think society has a lot to do with that, that we live in a culture where appearance is so in your face, should
Mhm.
look a certain way. And what you were saying about appreciating other people, I have found the older I get, the more I seek out those those people that are more different than me, than alike, and I look for it's almost as if the analogy is seeing a rainbow, and I used to like to see what other colors I could bring in. Now I look for the hues in each color. And if there's idiosyncrasies in a person's personality, I'm just delving in, asking more questions. That's just so much more enrichment in my life. But I know I went off track and I'm back on the idea that I'll look once in a while and I'll catch myself in a mirror and I'll make a comment to myself and think, "Oh, where'd that come from?"
Mm.
That's, well, years and years and years of a habit of being a woman in this society, especially where, certain way you're supposed to look. And ah,
Yeah, well, that's really interesting. That's kind of the same answer I got from my last podcast guest, Jay Abbasi. He said, with people pleasing, he said it's surprising that that thing never quite goes away, and I'm always working on it. It's like we all have like a cross to bear that is going to keep coming up, and it keeps us. It can either knock you off track if you're unconscious to it, but also it's something that keeps you on track, and that's how I've kind of looked at that. Like those are things that I am kind of perpetually working on, perpetually surrendering over, that keep me on track because they keep me in an aware state of like, hey, there's still work to be done. And if this is still a thing for you, you know, it's still a thing for somebody else, and you can help somebody with that.
Well,
So
isn't
I
that
love that.
wonderful? We're here for that message. That's why we do what we do. How many people do you see that look like they have everything all put together, and then they say something like I just said, and you say, they're human, and now I can give myself grace.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. I love this. So good. So, Rosemary, thank you so much for being on here. Is there anything you want to leave the audience with before we sign off?
Well, besides the fact to squeeze the life out of every day, that didn't happen to me overnight. Believe me, that I had lost that and it came back. The other thing I want to say is that this notion that we're doing instead of being and present in the moment, and all those workshops that are out there about time management and putting your goals and time and all. I love this saying that my mentor shared with me: you can never run out of now.
That's really good, because now is another opportunity to do it. And so is right now.
Life insurance.
And so is right now. Life insurance. Yes. Well, that's going to wait until Monday because it's on the schedule.
Okay.
Rosemary, they can check out yourtransformationtrainer.com to find out more about you. I want to thank you so much for being a guest on the Unstuck movement.
Thank you. And please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn as well.
Cool. Thanks so much.
Thank you.